Calcium nitrate 492.6 gram 3 moles. Ammonium sulfate 3 moles 396.1 gram. Once we have weighed out the reagents, we put both of them into solution. The amount of water doesn't matter really, but I used nearly 2 liter. The insoluble matter in both solutions was removed via filtration since both the chemicals were agricultural grade and pretty impure. Once that is done, we can move on to the next step. Glad I filtered that. The paper was white. Okay, now that we have relatively cleaner solutions, we can mix them. I poured the still hot ammonium sulfate solution into the calcium nitrate solution. Immediately there is a double displacement and both calcium sulfate and ammonium nitrate are made. The calcium sulfate precipitates out and the ammonium nitrate stays in solution. This makes it easy to separate them by vacuum filtration. This is the most tedious part. We need to filter off the sulfate. This takes quite some time and several changes of the filter paper. The filtrate is saved as it contains the product. The collected sulfate was rinsed once, but there is an expected loss in yield due to the difficulty in completely sucking it dry. Ammonium nitrate is a compound used primarily as a fertilizer and in explosives. It provides nitrogen, essential for plant growth. This is the filtrate. Some calcium sulfate made it over due to papers being torn, but that's okay. I filter it again and removed the visible sulfate. Now we need to reduce the volume of the solution. We do this by boiling off much of the water. There is a small issue with removing the water this way. Calcium sulfate is actually soluble in solutions of ammonium nitrate, so as the volume is lowered, some sulfate will precipitate out and will need to be removed. Once again, we filter it off. This is done a few times throughout the evaporation. Eventually we got there. I put the liquid in the fridge to see if I could get some of the nitrate to crystallize. It worked. This was grown from the filtrate egg of the first crop, which I further reduced and chilled. And I finally reduced this last bit down. This last bit of product looks visibly contaminated, and we will need to recrystallize the whole lot in order to remove the calcium sulfate, which was a contaminant. In order to clean up the ammonium nitrate and remove any calcium sulfate left over, we will need to recrystallize it. Water is not going to work for this, so the next best option is a solvent. Methanol is going to be the best bet due to the nitrate being soluble in it and the sulfate insoluble. Once again, filtration, evaporation and cooling are the methods employed here. Added more methyl alcohol and wood spirit and tried again. After cooling for a short while, left to dry in a desiccator bag for a few days. The filtrate has further reduced for a second night of crystals. All the calcium sulfate that was removed using methanol